The alien ship Krillian Seeker moved slowly through space, its blue engines glowing against the black stars. Inside the bridge, Captain Zeth-Ka watched the frozen planet grow larger on the main screen. NX-47 was a giant ball of ice and snow, spinning alone in the darkness. Every sensor on the ship showed the same thing: temperatures so cold that they would freeze metal solid. "The weather scans are showing minus 70 degrees, said the science officer Vaktesh, his 4 eyes blinking. Rapidly. No life could survive down there, not even the hardiest species we know. Zeth-Ka leaned forward in his captain's chair, scratching at his scaly green skin. The thick fur coat he wore made him look even larger than his already impressive size. All around the bridge, the crew wore multiple layers of clothing, even though the ship's heating system was working perfectly. Suddenly, an alarm rang through the bridge. The navigation officer's tentacles moved quickly across the control panel. "Captain, we are detecting something strange. There is a ship on the surface." "A ship?" Zeth-Ka stood up, towering over his crew. "That's impossible. These coordinates are not on any galactic map. No species should be here." The main screen changed to show a closer image of the planet's surface. There, half buried in the ice and snow, was a strange vessel. It looked nothing like any ship in their database. The metal was different and the design was odd and blocky. More strange was what the sensors were showing. "Captain," Vaktesh said, his voice shaking slightly, "the ship's power signature suggests active systems. Life support appears to be functioning." "You can't be serious," said the pilot, Krixmon. She wrapped her forearms around herself, shivering at the thought. "Nothing can survive in those temperatures. Those readings must be wrong." But the sensors didn't lie. There was heat coming from inside the crashed ship. Not much, but enough to show that something was alive in there. The crew looked at each other with fear and confusion. How could anything live in such cold? Zeth-Ka made his decision. "We must investigate. We have a duty to help any beings in distress, no matter how unlikely their survival seems." "Sir," Vaktesh said carefully, "perhaps we should report this to the Galactic Council first? We don't know what we're dealing with here. What if they're dangerous?" The captain thought for a moment. He knew his science officer was right to be careful. They had never encountered an unknown species before. But if something was alive down there, trapped in that frozen nightmare, they couldn't leave. Them to die. "We will take every precaution," he said firmly. "Prepare an away team. Maximum protective gear, medical personnel on standby, and keep our shields at full power, just in case." 20 minutes later, Zeth-Ka led his away team to the transporter room. Each crew member wore 3 layers of thermal suits, plus backup heating units and emergency oxygen supplies. They looked more like walking bundles of fabric than intelligent beings. "Remember," Zeth-Ka said to his team, "we have no idea what we'll find down there. Stay alert and be ready for anything." As the transporter beam took them to the planet's surface, the crew felt a chill that their suits couldn't completely block out. The instant they arrived, their suits' heating systems kicked into overdrive, struggling to keep them alive. The planet was even more hostile than they had imagined. Wind howled around them, carrying particles of ice that sounded like tiny bullets hitting their suits. Snow covered everything, making it hard to see more than a few meters ahead. Every step crunched through the frozen ground. "This way to the ship," Vaktesh said, checking his scanner. The device's screen showed their destination was close. As they struggled through the wind and snow, each step feeling like walking through quicksand, Zeth-Ka wondered what they would find. Who could build a ship that could land on such a deadly world? And more importantly, who could survive here long enough to need rescue? The crashed ship finally came into view through the blowing snow. It was larger than it had appeared from orbit, covered in ice and frost. Strange symbols covered its hull, written in a language none of them recognized. As they got closer, Zeth-Ka noticed something that made his blood run cold. There were tracks in the snow, fresh ones. Something had walked around the ship recently. Something that could survive outside in this frozen hell. The away team followed the tracks through the snow, their suits making loud whirring sounds as the heating systems worked overtime. Zeth-Ka's heart pounded in his chest as they got closer to the crashed ship. The tracks were clearly from two beings walking side by side. Whatever made these tracks had feet similar to the species in their database, but no known race could walk around outside in these temperatures. "Sir," Vaktesh whispered through his communicator, "I'm picking up voices coming from inside the ship. They're speaking an unknown language." Before Zeth-Ka could respond, a section of the ship's hull suddenly opened like a door. Two beings stepped out into the freezing air. The away team stopped dead in their tracks, unable to believe what they were seeing. The beings were tall, standing on two legs like many species they knew. They had only 2 arms each and heads at the top of their bodies. But what shocked the aliens most was what they were wearing. One of them, clearly female by her features, wore only a thin jacket with colorful patterns. The other, a male, had on just a long-sleeved shirt with some kind of symbols on it. "Oh, hey there," the female said cheerfully, waving at the aliens. Her breath came out in visible clouds in the freezing air, but she didn't seem bothered by the cold at all. "We saw your ship. I'm Lisa Martin, and this is Matt Johnson." The male smiled and nodded. "We're from Earth. Our ship had some engine trouble, but we've been fixing it. Should be ready to fly soon." The aliens stood frozen, not from the cold, but from pure shock. These beings were talking to them like they were having a conversation in a comfortable room, not standing in temperatures that should have killed them instantly. "Are you okay?" Lisa asked, tilting her head. "You guys look pretty bundled up. It's not that cold today, only about -60. "Not that cold." Krixmon, the pilot, barely got the words out. Her 4 arms were shaking inside her thick suit, and she was one of the hardiest members of the crew. Matt rubbed his arms with his hands. "Actually, it's getting a bit chilly now that we're standing around. Want to come inside? We've got some hot coffee brewing." "Hot coffee?" Vaktesh asked weakly. "Sure, come on, follow us." Lisa turned and walked back into their ship as if she were entering her home after a pleasant day outside. The aliens looked at each other through their frozen visors. Every instinct told them to beam back to their ship immediately. These beings were either lying, insane, or somehow breaking the laws of physics, but their duty as explorers and their curiosity won out. Inside the human ship, the alien suits immediately detected a temperature of +20 degrees. While this was warm for their standards, their suits kept them at a comfortable level. Lisa and Matt moved around easily, removing their light outer layers and hanging them on hooks near the door. "Make yourselves comfortable," Lisa said, gesturing to some basic chairs. "I'll get that coffee." Zeth-Ka watched in amazement as the 2 humans acted like nothing strange was happening. Lisa moved to a small device that was making pleasant gurgling sounds and pouring liquid into cups. Matt pulled out an electronic tablet and began showing damage reports for their ship. "See, we lost power to our main engine when we hit that asteroid field," Matt explained, pointing at colorful diagrams. "But we've managed to rig up a temporary solution using parts from our backup systems." "Temporary solution?" Krixmon asked, her voice still shaking. "How long have you been here?" "About 3 days," Matt answered casually. "The cold is actually helping keep our engine coolant systems from overheating while we work." "Helping?" Vaktesh's 4 eyes were blinking rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "The cold is helping you?" Lisa returned with steaming cups of dark liquid. The smell filled the small space, something warm and rich that the aliens had never encountered before. "Oh, you don't know what coffee is yet?" Lisa smiled. "It's a hot drink from Earth. Helps keep you warm and focused. You might want to take off some of those suits first, though. You must be roasting in here." The aliens looked at each other again. The temperature in the ship felt arctic to them, even through their suits. The idea of removing any protective layers seemed like madness, but they were scientists and they needed to understand what they were seeing. "How are you surviving?" Zeth-Ka finally asked the question that was burning in all their minds. No known species can withstand these temperatures without protection. Lisa and Matt exchanged glances and small smiles. "We're from Earth," Lisa repeated as if that explained everything. "It's pretty cold there sometimes. This actually reminds me of Minnesota in January." "Minnesota?" Krixmon asked. It's a place on Earth where it regularly gets this cold, Matt explained. People live there year-round. Some even go swimming in lakes they cut holes through the ice in. The aliens stood in stunned silence. These beings were describing a world of horrors as if it were normal, a place where temperatures dropped to deadly levels regularly, and the natives not only survived but thrived. More importantly, they chose to do activities that would be considered suicidal by any sane species. Your ship's database must have information about Earth, Lisa said, sipping her H. The medical bay of the Krillian Seeker was usually a calm place, but today it buzzed with activity. Lisa Martin and Matt Johnson sat on exam tables while Dr. Velnara moved around them with various scanning devices. Her three main arms held different instruments while her smaller appendages recorded data on a tablet. "This is fascinating," Velnara mumbled to herself, her many eyes blinking in disbelief. "Your core body temperature is constant at 37 degrees. Most species can't handle anything above 25. That's normal for humans," Lisa explained, watching with interest as holographic displays showed her internal systems. "We're pretty much walking furnaces compared to most things we've met so far." Matt laughed. "Our ancestors evolved to regulate temperature through sweating when it's hot and shivering when it's cold. We can even grow extra fat layers for insulation." Velnara dropped one of her instruments. "Fat layers for insulation? By the stars, you store energy as protective barriers against your own environment?" The medical examination continued for hours. The crew gathered to watch the scans, their faces showing various expressions of horror and amazement. The ship's database was being updated with every new piece of information about human physiology. "Your blood has a lower freezing point than most species," Velnara noted, "and your muscles can generate heat through micro-movements. This is revolutionary." "Let me show you something," Lisa said, pulling out her tablet. She brought up photos from Earth, swiping through images of snow-covered mountains, frozen lakes, and people engaged in winter activities. The crew crowded around, making sounds of amazement and fear. "This is called skiing," Lisa explained, showing a photo of people sliding down snowy slopes on long wooden planks. "We do it for fun." Fun. The word came out in a chorus of disbelief from several crew members. "And this is ice fishing," Matt added, showing pictures of people sitting on frozen lakes with holes cut in the ice. "We sit out there for hours catching fish from under the ice." Dr. Velnara's medical scanner fell from her grip, clattering, to the floor. "You willingly expose yourself to deadly temperatures for more entertainment?" "It's only deadly if you're not prepared," Lisa said cheerfully. "We have special clothing, but after a while your body adapts. I've lived in Colorado for 15 years, and now walking to my car in winter barely bothers me." Matt pulled up a map of Earth on the main screen. "Here, let me show you our weather patterns. This blue area here regularly hits -40 in winter. That's Siberia. About 30 million people live there permanently." The bridge fell silent. Even Captain Zeth Ka, who was known for his steady nerves, felt his scales ripple with involuntary fear. "And here's Alaska," Matt continued, pointing to a northern region. "Some towns there have had temperature drops to -66. People still go to work and school on those days." "Impossible," whispered Navigator Crixmon. "No one would choose to live in such conditions." "Wait, it gets better," Lisa grinned. "Some humans actually pay money to go to even colder places. Tourism to Antarctica is a real thing." The crew was processing more than just scientific data now. They were beginning to understand that these humans came from a world so harsh it had forged them into beings that defied everything they thought they knew about biological limits. "Tell us about this Class 12 death world of yours," Zethkov finally said, settling into a chair. "We need to update our database." Lisa and Matt launched into descriptions that sounded like horror stories to the alien crew. They talked about blizzards that could bury entire buildings in hours. They mentioned something called frostbite that could freeze flesh and require amputation. They described ice storms that turned entire regions into crystalline death traps. "But it's not all bad," Matt emphasized. "We have hot chocolate fireplaces, heated homes, and winter sweaters. Some of our best foods come from cold regions." "Hot chocolate?" queried Junior Officer Voktesh, still trying to process the concept of voluntary cold exposure. It's another warm drink, Lisa explained. Made with milk, sugar, and chocolate. Perfect for cold days. The ship's psychologist, Rick Thon, who had been quietly taking notes, spoke up. What you're describing is a comprehensive adaptation not just physically but culturally. You've created technologies, clothing, foods, and even recreational activities, specifically designed to thrive in conditions that would be considered uninhabitable disaster zones by our standards. That's evolution for you, Lisa shrugged. When the environment is harsh, you either adapt or die out. Our ancestors adapted really well. The evening cycle on the ship grew late as the cultural exchange continued. The aliens learned about winter sports, heard stories of people walking barefoot in snow, and discovered that humans even had special seasonal depression because their bodies expected certain amounts of sunlight. One more question, Captain Zeth said finally. How do you stand being in our medical bay? This room is climate-controlled to 22 degrees. Lisa and Matt looked at each other and burst out laughing. Captain, Matt explained, wiping tears from his eyes. This feels like a comfortable spring day to us. We're not even wearing jackets. The medical bay grew quiet as this statement sank in. The crew was realizing that their comfortable temperature was practically summer weather for these Deathworld beings. Dr. Velnara checked her notes one more time. I have one final question for my report. The minimal amount of cold exposure required to cause you discomfort? Well, Lisa thought for a moment. Below -80, most humans need extra protection. Without proper gear, -100 can be dangerous. But we've had people stand on the North Pole with just a coat and boots. Dr. Velnara's tablet slipped from her appendages again. The temperature range these humans could tolerate went far, beyond anything in the medical database. She would need to create an entirely new section just for them. As the humans left the medical bay to return to their ship for more repairs, the crew remained behind, still trying to process what they had learned. These weren't just survivors or accident victims they had rescued. They were representatives of a species that had conquered one of the most fundamental barriers to life in the galaxy, extreme cold, and they had done it so well that they used their deadly environment for recreation. The command center of the Krillian Seeker hummed with activity as the crew accessed the galactic database. Captain Zeth stood before the main holographic display, his eyes fixed on the loading bar. They needed to know more about Earth, this Class 12 death world that had somehow produced sentient life. Database connection established, announced the ship's AI. Accessing entry for designated celestial body, Earth, third planet of Sol system. The hologram flickered to life, showing a blue and green sphere with white swirls of clouds. At first glance, it looked deceptively peaceful. Then the data stream began, and the bridge fell into horrified silence. Warning. Extreme planetary conditions detected. The AI continued in its calm tone. Class 12 Death World status confirmed. Recommended action. Avoid all contact. Too late for that, muttered Matt Johnson, who was standing beside Lisa Martin near the holo display. The two humans watched with amusement as the alien crew learned about their home. The display zoomed in on Earth's poles. Temperature extremes. Polar regions maintain permanent ice caps. Recorded low temperature, -89 degrees Celsius. Recorded high temperature, +57 degrees Celsius. Crixmon's 4 arms wrapped around herself instinctively. Over 100 degrees of temperature variation? How do the tectonic plates even stay stable? Oh, they don't, Lisa said cheerfully. We get earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis pretty regularly. The database continued its grim report. Atmospheric pressure varies significantly with altitude. Oxygen levels decrease above certain heights. Weather patterns include hurricanes with winds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. 300? Dr. Velnara gasped. Such winds would tear most structures apart. They do, Matt confirmed. We build special shelters and have warning systems, though sometimes people still go outside to take pictures of tornadoes. Pictures of tornadoes? Voktesh's 4 eyes were blinking so rapidly they looked like strobe lights. The hologram shifted to show Earth's diverse landscapes. Deserts appeared first, vast oceans of sand with temperatures that made even the ship's heating systems seem inadequate. Sahara Desert. Surface temperatures can exceed 70 degrees Celsius. Water sources are separated by hundreds of kilometers. Life exists in extreme adaptation states only. And people live there too, Lisa added. Some nomadic tribes have lived in deserts for thousands of years. The display moved to rainforests next, showing green hellscapes with humidity levels that would make most species' breathing apparatus fail. Amazon rainforest. Humidity maintains constant levels above 90%. Contains more species per square kilometer than any other biome. Includes dangerous predators, venomous creatures, and parasitic organisms. The alien crew exchanged worried glances. Each new piece of information painted a more terrifying picture of the planet these humans called home. Mountain ranges detected, the AI announced. Everest Peak, elevation 29,000 feet. Limited oxygen, temperatures below -60. Wind speeds exceeding 200 miles per hour. And people climb that too, Matt said. For fun, they pee. Would you like to see some of our history? Lisa asked, connecting her tablet to the ship's display system. The alien crew had already learned enough terrifying facts about Earth, but their scientific curiosity won out. I suppose we should understand your development better, Captain Zethka said, though his voice betrayed hesitation. Lisa pulled up a documentary about Antarctic exploration. The screen filled with images of humans in thick clothing trudging through endless white landscapes. This is Ernest Shackleton's expedition to Antarctica in 1914, Matt explained. His ship got trapped in ice, and the crew survived for months by living on ice floes. Dr. Velnara's medical scanners trembled in her appendages. Living on floating ice in negative temperatures for months? 22 months, actually, Lisa said. They ate penguins and seals to survive. Eventually, they sailed small boats across 900 miles of ocean to reach help. The documentary showed grainy black and white footage of men setting up camps on ice, hunting for food, and somehow staying alive in conditions that would kill any other species within hours. This is considered a heroic tale of survival on Earth, Matt added. Children study it in schools. The ship's psychologist Pector made rapid notes. You teach your young about surviving in deadly conditions as inspiration. History is full of stories like this, Lisa said, scrolling through more files. Want to see how people survived the Ice Age? The display shifted to show primitive humans living in caves wrapped in animal furs and making fire. The narrator explained how for thousands of years, large parts of Earth were covered in glaciers, and human ancestors had survived through multiple ice ages. Your species evolved during these ice ages? Vaktesh asked incredulously. Some scientists think the harsh conditions actually helped push our evolution forward, Matt explained. Necessity is the mother of invention, as we say. Dr. Velnara's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. The stress of surviving in extreme cold accelerated your cognitive development? That's one theory, Lisa confirmed. Another video? She pulled up footage of children playing in snow, building snowmen, and having snowball fights. To the alien crew, it looked like a horror scene. You let your young ones play in the frozen outdoors? Crixmon gasped, her forearms clutching at herself. It's fun, Lisa said brightly. Look at them now. The video showed kids in puffy jackets sliding down hills on plastic sleds, laughing with delight. The pilot whimpered and had to sit down. And this, Matt grinned, pulling up a new video, is the polar bear plunge. The screen filled with images of people in swimsuits jumping into icy water in the middle of winter. They're voluntarily entering frozen water, Rixthon exclaimed. In minimal clothing. Some do it for charity, Lisa explained, others just for the rush. The water is usually around 0 degrees Celsius. Dr. Velnara dropped her scanner completely. 3 crew members had to be escorted to the medical bay for stress-induced system failures. Let me show you something different, Matt said, noticing the crew's distress. He pulled up winter sports videos. This is skiing. People zoomed down snowy mountains at incredible speeds, weaving between trees and jumping over obstacles. They propel themselves down icy inclines on narrow planks? Captain Zeth Ka stared in disbelief. At those speeds, one mistake would be fatal. Well, yeah, that's why we wear helmets, Lisa said casually. That's why you wear helmets? The captain's scales rippled with agitation. Helmets are considered sufficient protection for activity that could be fatal. The videos continued. Ice hockey players slamming into each other on frozen surfaces, snowboarders performing aerial flips, and people constructing entire buildings out of ice and snow. Wait, you build structures from the substance that's trying to kill you? Pector asked weakly. Ice hotels are actually pretty popular, Matt explained. People pay to sleep in rooms made entirely of ice. You sleep in ice? Dr. Velnara could barely form the words. With special sleeping bags rated for extreme cold, Lisa added helpfully. Though some people have tried it with just regular blankets. That didn't end well. The ship's AI chose that moment to announce, Alert. 3 crew members in medical. Bay showing symptoms of cultural shock. Recommendation, session suspension for psychological recovery. Captain Zethka stood up, trying to maintain his commanding presence despite the trembling in his limbs. Perhaps we should take a break. This is a lot of information to process. Sure, Lisa said cheerfully. Did we mention that some humans voluntarily climb mountains in weather that's literally called the death zone because the oxygen levels are too low to sustain life? 2 more crew members had to leave the bridge. Or that we have marathons in the Arctic, Matt added. People run 26 miles in sub-zero temperatures wearing special shoes with metal spikes to keep from slipping on ice. The remaining crew stared at the humans with a mixture of awe and terror. Every new piece of information painted a clearer picture of a species that had not only survived one of the universe's most hostile environments, but had turned surviving it into an art form. We haven't even mentioned winter camping, Lisa started to say, but Captain Zethka held up a hand. Please, he said, his voice shaking. No more winter activities. We need to recover from what we've already learned. As the meeting ended, the crew slowly filed out of the bridge, each one trying to process the fact that these smiling, laughing beings came from a world that would be classified as a high-security quarantine zone if any other species attempted to live there. In the corridor, Dr. Velnara turned to her colleagues. We've been using our climate control systems like a comforting blanket against the harshness of space. These humans use space as a comforting blanket against the harshness of their planet. The statement settled over the crew like a heavy weight. They were beginning to understand that they hadn't rescued 2 stranded travelers. They had made first contact with a species that had evolved to laugh in the face of conditions that terrified the entire galaxy. And somehow, knowing that didn't make the humans any less terrifying. The emergency alarm pierced through the comfortable atmosphere of the Krillian Seeker's bridge. Captain Zethka rushed to his station as the communications officer, Thexvar, reported the incident. Sir, we're receiving a distress signal from Research Station Gamma 7. They're on asteroid KL-94, studying mineral deposits. Their cooling system has failed. Temperature is rising rapidly. That's their cooling system? Lisa asked, looking up from her datapad. She and Matt had been working with the crew to fix their ship for the past 2 days. What temperature is dangerous for them? If it exceeds -40 degrees, the station's crew will suffer tissue damage within minutes, Dr. Velnara explained, running calculations on her screen. They have perhaps an hour before conditions become lethal. Matt and Lisa exchanged glances. -40? Matt repeated. That's practically warm for us. We must rescue them, Captain Zethka declared. Plot course for the asteroid immediately. Wait, Lisa said, stepping forward. Matt and I can help. We can survive those temperatures easily. The bridge fell silent. The crew had seen the videos, had studied the data, but asking these Deathworlders to enter another dangerous environment seemed wrong. Your offer is appreciated, Zethka said carefully. But we cannot put visitors at risk. Our own rescue teams are trained for emergency protocols. As the ship approached the asteroid, the situation worsened. The station's temperature was dropping faster than expected. The research crew, a mix of different species, were huddling together, in their insulated suits, but those suits weren't designed for extended wear. Captain, the rescue coordinator Plixdan reported, "Our teams need 12 layers of thermal protection just to approach the station. Loading into the escape pods will take precious time." Through the view screen they could see the asteroid's surface. It was a barren, rocky world with no atmosphere. The failed cooling system meant the research station was now exposed to the full temperature differential between the sun-facing and shadow sides. The crew inside was trapped in the part of the station that was swinging into the asteroid's permanent night side. "They have 30 minutes left, maybe less," Dr. Velnara updated grimly. "This is ridiculous," Lisa said, frustration clear in her voice. She grabbed Matt's arm. "We're wasting time. We can fix this." "I agree," Matt said firmly. "Captain, with respect, every minute we spend debating is a minute we're letting those people suffer." Matt pulled up the station's schematics on his tablet. "Look, the cooling system backup power junction is in the outer maintenance bay. It's a simple fix. Someone just needs to flip the manual override and reroute power from the secondary generator." "Simple. For you, perhaps?" Vaktesh said, his 4 eyes blinking anxiously. "But for us, that's 5 minutes exposed to lethal conditions, even with full protection." 5 minutes? Lisa laughed. "We could do it in our regular clothes." Before Captain Zethka could protest, Lisa and Matt had already headed for the escape pod bay. "We're going," Matt called back. "You can either transport us there or we'll take a pod ourselves." "This is madness." The captain called after them, but he was already signaling the transport coordinator. "Sir," Krixmon said quietly, "they survived 3 days on that ice planet. Maybe we should let them help." 5 minutes later, Lisa and Matt were being transported to the AST. 6 standard galactic months after the rescue incident, the first waves of change swept through the galaxy. What started as a single report about 2 stranded humans on an ice planet had become something much larger. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, representatives from 12,000 species gathered for an emergency session. The topic of discussion sent ripples of fear and fascination through the assembly. "We must address the human phenomenon," declared Zrak Thon, ambassador from the Velkan Empire. His crystalline structure shimmered with nervous energy. "Our databases show increasing encounters with beings claiming to come from the Class 12 Death World, designated as Earth." Murmurs filled the massive chamber. Species that had never met seemed to be sharing stories of human encounters. A Gordian merchant told of hiring a human crew member who walked into a malfunctioning cryochamber to fix it, while everyone else froze with fear. A Krellic explorer described humans living in an abandoned mining station that maintained temperatures their species considered tropical. The Council's security advisor, Jexmar of the Orion Collective, activated a holographic display. "These Deathworlders have demonstrated abilities that challenge our understanding of biological survivability," her metallic voice echoed. "We've compiled over 200 verified reports." The hologram showed a map of the galaxy with pinpoints of light, marking human encounters. The density was startling. "Just last week," Jexmar continued, "the Nexus station near the Kepler Nebula advertised for a maintenance position. The job required working in cryogenic storage units. Every application was from a Vortari, until one human applied." Her mechanical eyes focused on the assembly. She was the only candidate who didn't require environmental modifications or protection equipment. The chamber buzzed with concerned chatter. The Vortari ambassador, a being of pure water that constantly changed shape, rippled with agitation. "That position was paying triple hazard rates. We didn't expect to lose market advantage to Deathworlders," Jexmar finished. Back on the Krillian Seeker, news of the Council's debates reached the crew. Matt Johnson was helping Dr. Velnara organize her newly expanded medical database on human physiology when the transmission came through. "They're actually calling an emergency session about humans?" Lisa asked, watching the news feed. "We've only met a handful of species. Word travels fast in the galaxy," Captain Zethka said, joining them in the medical bay. "Especially when that word is immune to freezing death." Their ship was now permanently modified with climate-controlled zones. The crew quarters maintained a comfortable 25 degrees for the aliens, while the human section could be set to whatever temperature Lisa and Matt preferred. Matt had painted human sauna on the door, keeping it at a balmy 30 degrees that made the crew shiver if they accidentally entered. Captain, Communications Officer Thexvar announced, "We're receiving multiple job offers. The Glacian Mining Corporation wants human consultants for their ice moon operations. The Cryo Research Institute is offering research positions. Even the what?" Zethka prompted. "The Military Defense Council, sir. They want humans for missions in extreme environments." Lisa put down her tablet slowly. "They want to weaponize our cold resistance?" "Not weaponize, exactly," Dr. Velnara interjected. "But many species can't perform military operations below certain temperatures. Humans could theoretically operate in conditions that would ground entire fleets." The conversations in the Galactic Council turned more heated. Some species viewed humans as a potential threat. Others saw opportunity. "We cannot classify an entire species as biological weapons," protested Vinkesh, the philosopher ambassador from Centauri Prime. His multiple eyes blinked in different patterns to emphasize his points. "They have saved lives. They have contributed to scientific understanding. They have also disrupted labor markets," grumbled a delegate from the Merchant Guild. "Ice world colonization was profitable because it required expensive specialized equipment. Now we're hearing about humans living comfortably in habitats that cost a fortune to operate properly." Word of the debates reached Earth. The United Earth government, which had just achieved faster-than-light travel within the past decade, found itself suddenly thrust into galactic politics. Other human vessels reported similar experiences, being hired, studied, and occasionally feared for their environmental capabilities. "I'm getting messages from home," Lisa told Matt one evening as they worked in their comfortable hot zone of the ship. "Humans are becoming environmental specialists across the galaxy. My cousin just got hired to inspect cryo sleep chambers that other species are afraid to enter." "Mine too," Matt laughed. "Apparently there's a university on Proxima Station offering scholarships for humans to study extreme environment biology. They want to figure out how we do it." Dr. Velnara, who had become close friends with the two humans, worked tirelessly to publish a comprehensive study on human physiology. The paper, Deathworld Adaptations, a study of human environmental tolerance, became required reading in NAMI xenobiology courses across the galaxy. The first job offers from different species arrived at Earth within the year. Environmental consulting, cold weather operations, climate control system testing. Humans found themselves in demand for tasks that other species found impossible or deadly, but not everyone saw this as positive. On Rigel 7, a mining consortium complained that human workers were undermining traditional hazard work arrangements. Some stations began to see the rise of icebreaker gangs, groups of humans who would walk into frozen or extremely cold areas to perform repairs other species considered too dangerous. The Orion Empire, known for its conservative policies, issued a formal request to the Galactic Council. "We demand classification protocols for Deathworld species. These beings could destabilize entire sectors of specialized labor." What started as two stranded travelers had become a movement. Human ships arriving at space stations were no longer met with just scientific curiosity, but with job offers, research proposals, and occasionally, fear. Captain Zethka watched it all unfold with mixed feelings. "We've opened a door we can't close," he confided to his crew. "The galaxy will never look at environmental limitations the same way again." In the depths of space, on stations and planets that other species could barely visit, humans were carving out new roles. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were proving that what the galaxy considered impossible limitations were just challenges waiting to be overcome. The age of the Deathworlders had begun. 1 year after their first meeting, the Krillian Seeker was no longer just a research vessel. It had become a symbol of interspecies cooperation and cultural exchange. The ship now featured special areas for both aliens and humans, with climate zones set to different temperatures. Lisa Martin and Matt Johnson had accepted official positions as cultural ambassadors. Their job was to help other species understand humans, and to help humans understand the galaxy. It was work they enjoyed, even if some days were stranger than others. Today we're visiting the Prixian school on Outpost 7, Lisa told Matt as they prepared for their shuttle trip. They want us to explain snow to their children. Matt laughed as he packed a small container of water. I still can't believe we have to bring visual aids. They've never seen frozen water in person. Captain Zethka joined them at the shuttle bay. Over the past year, his fear of humans had turned into deep respect. Remember to stay within their comfort zones, he reminded them. The children's temperature requirements are strict. Don't worry, Lisa assured him. We'll keep our demonstration short, just enough to show them what snow is, not enough to scare them. The Prixian school was one of many institutions across the galaxy now teaching about Earth and humans. Children. In a dozen different species were learning about the death world that had produced beings who could walk through freezing temperatures without dying. Inside the classroom, 30 young Prixians waited. They looked like smaller versions of their parents, skinny beings with scale-like skin that shimmered in different colors based on their emotions. Right now, they were glowing bright yellow with excitement. These are real humans, the teacher, HFY, announced. The children chirped and hummed, their way of showing happiness. They have come to teach us about their home planet and one of its most interesting features, snow. Matt stepped forward, holding the small container. Hello, everyone. I'm Matt, and this is Lisa. We're from Earth, a planet where water sometimes falls from the sky as something solid called snow. The children's scales rippled with disbelief. One brave student raised an appendage. Water can't be solid, that's impossible. Lisa smiled. On Earth, when the temperature gets cold enough, water turns solid. We call it ice. When it falls from the sky in small pieces, we call it snow. Matt carefully opened the container. Inside was a small device that could freeze water instantly. He poured a little water into it, pressed a button, and seconds later, held up a small snowball. The children immediately moved back, their scales turning pale blue with fear. The teacher had to reassure them they were safe. This is snow, Matt explained, holding it gently. On Earth, it covers the ground in winter. Sometimes it gets deeper than I am tall. And you live in it? A child asked, voice trembling. Not just live in it.